welcome to a brand new episode here of the Jedi Way. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, also known as Rocha Fett, also known as Marrok Fett. Psych! We have so much to get into here, and we are going to be talking about the 4th episode of Ahsoka Fallen Jedi. Joined as always by my co-host since the beginning here, the great Laura Kelly. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing amazing, John. Like me and all the fall girlies are getting very excited for the seasons changing here, especially here in Chicago. We're almost done with the humidity.
Ooh.
Fall is almost upon us, and I love that. I love that for all of us.
But before we go to our intrepid reporter down there in San Diego, let me ask you something. Is this the Morgan Elsbeth look that you're sporting right now with that hairstyle? That
Me? No,
this is Morgan Elsbeth.
Oh, unintentional. It was just lazy girl. Normally I've got my, what do you call it? Like my bangs kind of off this, my curtain bangs. Couldn't do it today. It's just been a long day. I just came home, brushed it out, and got to work. So here we are.
I'm sure Morgan feels the same way. I got to get thrown back. I don't have time to do my hair. Kevin Smets, there in San Diego, bright and sunny there in your background. How you feeling, Kevin? How are things?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Is this on? I'm good.
Things on.
I wanted to get a haircut this morning so then I can make a world between world Anakin joke, like I'm all clean cut. But I went to the place and it was like there was no one there and it was supposed to be open. So, yeah, this definitely ain't no retouched Anakin shot right here. Let's be honest.
No, a lot less smooth.
This is more Anakin from Kenobi when he was a Padawan and he looked 40.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little.
I discovered I could go to the world between worlds if I just go like this. Oh,
there you are.
There it is. Put it
fun with filters.
There you go. Today, kids. Anyway, we are jumping into episode 4 here, directed by PETER RAMSEY and written by Dave Filoni and Laura. So much happened in this episode, and Laura has been so great guiding us through these episodes here in Ahsoka. So I hand the show over to Ms. Kelly. Take it away, Laura.
Thank you very much, John. A sense of dread looms over the entirety of Ahsoka Part 4, Fallen Jedi, and it all comes to a head in a very dramatic conclusion. I sense the foreboding, like, from the get-go in this episode, but I never would have guessed where we would have ended up by the end of this. So there's lots of discussion of, like, legacy and sacrifice in fighting for the greater good. I got a lot of questions answered in this episode. We learned potentially like what caused that fallout between Ahsoka and Sabine and what's been holding Sabine back. I was feeling the volume a little bit in some of those like forest scenes, but I thought the fight choreography in this episode was far superior to what we saw in the first 2. So overall, very pleased with this 4th episode of season 1. What were your thoughts, Kevin? Jump in.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of texting during it. So, like, Laura got there first, then said, "Oh, just you wait." Then I got to the "Oh, just you wait," and then Rocha did. So it was fun. But to not have that big moment overshadow what I was saying literally to my wife about halfway through it, I was like, this, like, again, I still, like, Kenobi, like, it didn't bother me as much as it did other people. Like, that finale of Kenobi, I really liked that battle. But, like, halfway through this episode, I was like, this is definitely, like, top tier. Some of the best Star Wars storytelling we've seen, like, in the new Disney era. And I like the sequel trilogy. So I'm not trying to say that, like, oh, they finally got it right. Like, you know, I know a lot of pundits have been doing that. Mine is more like I was just sitting there ear to ear, smiling and just like blown away by the music, by the sound design. I mentioned that to you guys on text. Like, the sound design was just legit with the bass of the sabers and hitting like the rocks and stuff. And then, like, it just kept getting better and better. I was like, it just keeps getting better and better. So, like, and Baylan is quickly becoming, I've always been public that Qui-Gon's my favorite character of all time. Baylan is just getting up there. And on Twitter, someone had mentioned that Baylan is almost like evil Qui-Gon Jinn, which I thought was funny. You know what I mean? Like, and he's not too wrong. That was Brom Titus on Twitter. But yeah, so just all in all, it was one of those things too, where like I've just enjoyed the series overall, but this was the first time where like I got those butterflies and the nerves and like the, oh my God, what's going to happen next? So kudos to the whole team involved. PETER RAMSEY knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of praise for Ray Stevenson's performance in this episode in particular. John, what were your overall thoughts on episode 4?
Yeah, I have to echo that love for Ray Stevenson. You know, I've been a fan of his since Rome, and one of the things we talked about on the show, Laura, as well, and Kevin, was how it's bittersweet that he's going to get all this love, because I just knew from the trailer that we were going to get a fantastic performance from Ray Stevenson in this role. And he has not disappointed for a second in his delivery, in his energy, in what he's bringing to Star Wars. It's a different type of character that we haven't seen. We've seen shades of a character like this, but never like this, in this format, and in fully like this. And it's been a joy to watch. But his interactions with Shin Hati, I thought we got a lot of great acting in this episode. IVANNA SAKHNO, Natasha Leah Bordizzo getting more to do. Those two, literally two sides of the same coin, unfinished, angry, stuff from the past, stuff from when they were younger, residue trauma, all of it there that we got to explore. And then we got some samurai stuff with Ahsoka, certainly with Marrok, and all our theories literally going up in space dust. And then the battle with her and Baylan, which I thought was so noble and regal and respectful, but also the battle that is happening verbally between them about Ahsoka's legacy with Anakin, about his determination to do what he wants to do. There's no hesitation in what he's doing. He's very clear of mind of what he's doing. That can be unsettling for anyone who is not necessarily clear of mind. And certainly it feels like Ahsoka has a lot of things going on in her mind. And in the back and forth with her and Sabine at the beginning of the episode kind of lets you know, like, she's willing to sacrifice Ezra to stop Thrawn at all costs. And in a way, she's kind of like the reverse of Morgan Elsbeth. Elsbeth wants to bring Thrawn back at all costs, and it seems like Ahsoka wants to stop him coming back at all costs. So we're seeing these mirror images of each other throughout the whole show or episode, which I thought was really well done here. The acting, I already mentioned. The directing by Peter Ramsey was so good, and the fight choreography was a lot of fun to see throughout this whole thing. So to me, this is the best of Star Wars, where there's good psychological, emotional stories being told, but there's also awesome lightsaber sequences, really interesting new stuff being introduced to the mythology, and at the end, a phenomenal final moment between two old friends, a master and apprentice there, and what that might lead to, and all of us having a lot of questions about the mysteries that are going on with all of these characters at this point in the season.
Yeah, many mysteries to get into for sure. So let's jump into Act 1 of Part 4 of Ahsoka, where we open up on Cetos with the T6 shuttle. Huyang is trying to fix the transmitter, Sabine's trying to contact Hera, and Ahsoka is like staring off into space or something outside. Ahsoka tells Sabine that if we can't make the journey to find Ezra, then nobody should. And Sabine says it won't come to that. Ezra would be stranded out there for good. That would not be a good thing. But Ahsoka points out that would be better than Thrawn returning, which just got a little bit of a point. Ahsoka tells Sabine that she knows what Ezra meant to her, and tells her that sometimes you have to do what's right regardless of your personal feelings. Meanwhile, outside, Huyang is attacked by a droid hiding in the forest. They have some hand-to-hand combat, and the power in the ship gets knocked out, alerting Ahsoka and Sabine, who go outside to help. Together, the three of them take out the mercenaries and the assassin droid, and Ahsoka tells Huyang to fix the transmitter and call Hera. Huyang tells them to stay together as they head out into the forest. Meanwhile, still on Cetos over at the Henge, Baylan sends Shin, that's hard, and a bunch to attack the Jedi starship, and then he tells Morgan that they should get underway soon. Morgan asks Baylan if she hears fear in his voice. He replies saying, experience. Baylan tells Morgan that if her calculations for the jump are off by even a little, they'll be lost in the void, and she tells him to have faith. He tells her that he lost faith a long time ago. She activates that cool spaceball map. It pulses, which is kind of a cool effect I don't remember seeing before. Baylan comments witchcraft at this point. Morgan has no response. And on her ship, a droid starts calculating the coordinates for their jump to hyperspace. So then we cut to the home one. We see Hera, Chopper, and Jason making their way to the Ghost. Hera's lieutenant tells her that she can't just leave. She tells him, watch me, and she bails. And then the Ghost is in space. It's escorted by 5 X-Wings, which includes Carson Teva. Yeah. So fun. Such a fun surprise. Carson tells her that she's risking a lot by doing this, and she tells him you know how it is, once a rebel, always a rebel. He calls her Phoenix Leader, which is a really fun, like, Star Wars Rebel Easter egg I really appreciated. And they jump to hyperspace, and we are off. John, we have the triumphant return of Carson Teva, and we finally get to see the Ghost in action. How do you think they did with setting the stage here in Act 1?
Yeah, I thought they did a really nice job. And for me, this is that final moment. I'm like, is this Rangers of the New Republic? Are they kind of low-key launching Rangers of the New? I'm down to see Carson Teva leading a crew here. That makes so much sense. And I enjoyed that. And, Hera, Hera, look, she's a warrior, right? I'm taking my 10-year-old or however old he is into war. Why not? My dad took me into war as a young, young person. So why not? So, she comes from a harder edge species there, and they're willing to go to battle and willing to go. And she finds a nobility in that. So, although she may not be mom of the year for basically putting her son in danger, you got to respect the fact that she is adhering to the code or warrior code. So I kind of like that. But yeah, the beginning here, as I said earlier, the conversations about philosophy, right? This idea of what are you willing to do in certain moments when things are falling apart? Are you willing to see the greater good over your own personal desire for Ezra to come back? If we can't do it, will you be willing to destroy the ability to do it so that we don't have Thrawn coming back? Because that is a real danger. And you're always weighing these things. I love when they, as viewers, that we have to weigh what would we do? Would we bring back a long lost friend that there's a lot of guilt over and that we miss, and possibly bring an evil back that'll cause the death of millions of people? Or shall we sacrifice our own personal desires for the greater good? So there's a lot here that you explore in the conversations between Sabine and Ahsoka. And clearly there's a bubbling undercurrent. For all the niceties of the last episode, there's still a bubbling undercurrent between both of them, this unresolved stuff. And I like that both actresses kind of hint at it, but don't make it overt. And I appreciate that. Huyang, robot martial arts. Hell yeah, droid martial arts. Bring it on. I thought that was fun to see. And then, of course, he gets bested eventually. And then it's help me, for God's sake. So I like that as an element of this. But then when Sabine and Ahsoka work together, is badass. She's best as a Mandalorian. She is Ahsoka's best as a Jedi. And two people working together who are normally enemies, the Mandalorian and Jedi, working together here to take down those guards, I thought was pretty badass overall. And then Baylan and Morgan. Look, Ray has just got so much nobility to what he's doing with this character. And the back and forth with Morgan, he doesn't disrespect Morgan. And I just feel like there's something in that line, like the faith, right? I lost my faith a long time ago. So who is he? What happened? What did his wife die as a result of him being a Jedi? Did his brother and his wife die? And so Shin Hati is like his niece. I don't know. There's a lot here that I see when he says that line, I lost my faith a long time ago, and then utters witchcraft under his breath when he sees what that Morgan Elsbeth is doing with the space map. So there's just a lot of little seeds being planted or little hints being thrown out in the interactions that I thought were really well done, along with the action.
For sure. Kevin, we've seen a ton of tension between Sabine and Ahsoka build and diffuse, sort of ebbs and flows over the course of this season, but they seem to have kind of settled into their own thing by the time we get here to our halfway point in the season. What else stood out to you as we check in with all of our heroes and villains in the first part of episode 4?
Wait, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. No, I'm just kidding. Droid fist fight.
Yeah.
You had a droid fist fight. Like, it was like martial arts droids. Like, what else do you want? These HK droids, now I'll give a little love to KOTOR here. HK-47 wouldn't get taken out by a 10,000, 20,000-year-old droid. We love Huyang. Huyang? How do you say it? Huyang?
Huyang.
Huyang, yes. Man, KOTOR fans, imagine out of the forest, you hear HK-47's voice, and he always opened every sentence with either like statement or question or query. If he was just like statement. I've lived countless generations and served for far better Jedi than you. And then he started whooping on Huyang. That would have been great. But that being said, I love Huyang. I actually am reminded of a theory that my buddy that I went to college with, his name's Joey. He has a cool YouTube channel, by the way, called The Padawan Collector. He's all about Kenner action figures. If you're into the toys, like, he's great. He has a huge following over there. He's great. But he was texting me. He told me that he thinks, Disney's been very big on creating very likable droids, right? K2SO with his sacrifice, IG-11 with his sacrifice. He thinks long-term, I don't know whether it's going to be out in the outer reaches and that's how everybody gets home. He believes that the next great sacrifice, the next great droid that we're going to lose is Huyang. And it's going to, because he's so likable and everybody on the internet loves him. And that will be a way to have stakes and kill someone off that you're not actually killing a human, you're killing a droid. So I just wanted to give him a shout out on that, because he told me that. I was like, how dare you? Laura's going to be really mad at you. But,
She is.
Laura's mad at you, Joey. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, he had a droid fist fight. Anything with HK was great. The setup when she's like, are you going to be willing to make that tough choice? Like, and you just knew that was going to come in and factor in later. And again, you know me, I always like to jump far, far ahead. Imagine the guilt that Sabine is going to feel when, you know, as we probably all predict, the heir to the Empire is going to come back, because they have a movie coming out called Heir to the Empire, right? Yeah. Imagine her level of guilt that she's going to have. So then here's dark theory number 2 from me, is that in the Filoni movie, she's going to sacrifice her life to save others, because she's the one who, she's literally like the Peter Quill that, you know, punched Thanos and stopped them from taking and then it resulted in the, you know, death of billions of people, even though that was the 14 million and 20, whatever it was. I forget now. I'm not in the Schmodown, but I'm retired. But yeah, so imagine the level of guilt that Sabine must feel, especially when Ahsoka at this beginning, as we're speaking into this first act, is like, are you going to be ready? Can I count on you? Right. And I think some people think she's not talking about like, she's not asking like, are you going to be ready? She knows that her Padawan's going to be ready to fight and go for round 2 in the forest. She wants to know if she's going to be able to do the tough thing, which is be ready to say bye-bye, Ezra, to protect the greater good, is, you know, the lives of many. So all in all, that first act, again, I like it too because of the pacing. They take their time. You really settle in. You see what life is like for them on the ship, and they're just out there in the forest waiting and stuff like that. And you know, shit's going to get turned up a notch. So yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. We get a lot of vague allusions, like from and kind of about Baylan in his past. And there's so much mystery surrounding him. It just makes him all the more interesting, I think. But Baylan identifies Morgan's abilities as witchcraft when she activates that map. Did that come off as like an eye roll to either of you in any way? John, you said like under his breath, which I 100% get. Did it come off as, and you're right, he is respectful of her, but that almost feel like disrespectful in the way? Or am I reading it wrong?
I don't know. I mean, because it's a good question. Like, why would he say that in that moment? He's already seen her use the witchcraft, right? In episode 2, when she logged that in. So why was this even more so a moment for him to say that? Is this a counter of faith versus witchcraft? I don't know, but it's interesting that he had that reaction in that moment, because nothing seems to unsettle him. And so why utter that if it wasn't for a certain intention? And maybe you're right. And this is the thing that I come back to with Baylan, because a lot of people were calling him villain and villain and villain and all this. And I'm not sure he's a villain. I get it. He killed New Republic people and all of that. And certainly he's using certain elements of the Force later on with Sabine. Certainly, maybe you could call those villainous tendencies. But I need to know why he's doing the things that he's doing before I dial into whether he's a villain or not. And the witchcraft stuff, if you're right, Laura, that it's a bit of derision or a bit of making fun of her or eye rolling at her possibly, or denigrating her under his breath, he may have other reasons for bringing him back, Thrawn, and for being under Morgan Elsbeth's employ. He may be waiting for the moment to turn on her for whatever reason. So until we know the reasons why he's doing the things he's doing, I think everything is in play with Baylan, and I kind of like that. So we can.
I know the reason.
Yeah,
I know the reason.
Go ahead.
It's a spoiler, not a theory. No, I'm kidding. It's just my theory. I think that Baylan is after the World Between Worlds himself.
To find somebody, to get somebody.
I don't know. He says to secure the future. Like, what are you trying to secure the future for? And I think at some point he says the greater good or something along those lines.
Yeah,
and I think he knows that, like, right now he's allied. And I think it's similar to Thrawn, who was allying with the Empire, but for reasons to him are just and valid for his species, right? And the greatest villains, whether they're villains or not, are the ones that truly believe in what they're trying to do.
Right.
And sometimes those have blurred lines. And so I feel like Baylan is using Morgan. I think that Morgan's using Baylan. And I think when Thrawn shows up, all bets are off. Thrawn's not going to need Baylan. Morgan's not going to need Shin. And all, you know, like I've told you that, my thoughts on that. But yeah, I feel like Baylan is I think he feels that this thing this thing can connect to the outer reaches. But I have a feeling he's after something greater. He's after control of the world between worlds. Now, I don't know where he would get that theory from, but I mean, even like he's got to be aware of it, right? Like, and so, and you see like the way that thing is working, like the hyper, you know, all the cool star map stuff on that Stonehenge area. Like, I just feel like he's after something. He says power, right? What's going to happen when we get there? And he's like, absolute power. Him is not going to. What world does he think that like he'll be given all the power in the world if he helps Thrawn? Like, I think he's after something else. I think he wants to control and maybe like go back and stop Order 66, or you know what I mean? Like, I think he's going to have well intentions. Just he's taken a kind of a nasty path to get there.
Interesting. Okay.
I like the theory. I like the theory a lot.
I throw whatever I can against the wall, so one of these will stick, and then the next week you'll be like, "Dude, you're so smart!" Like, so.
Yeah.
It hasn't
Or,
happened
dude,
yet.
you were
I'm
still wrong.
waiting. I'm still waiting. It hasn't happened yet. I think I'm batting 0. So.
Close enough. All right, so diving into part 2 of this episode, we are in the forest. Ahsoka and Sabine meet up with Marrok and Shin. Ahsoka versus Marrok. First with, and we've got Sabine first with blasters, then with her saber versus Shin. Marrok spins his helicopter saber and explodes into dust with a screaming hiss when Ahsoka calmly takes him out in one swipe. It's very Twin Suns coded, and I really enjoyed that. Sabine and Shin stop for a second, and Sabine tells Ahsoka to leave and to go get the map. So we make our way to the henge. Morgan gets bored watching the map buffer, so she bails and tells Baylan to keep an eye on the map. Ahsoka arrives at the henge, and Baylan tells her Anakin spoke highly of her. She counters that by saying that he never mentioned Baylan to her. They have some back and forth about Anakin. Yeah, we're throwing shade. We're talking about ambition, about the inevitability of war, and Baylan tells her one must destroy in order to create. They ignite their sabers, they circle around each other with the map ball between them, and they duel, and it's awesome. We check in with Morgan on the Eye of Sion as she watches the coordinates computer buffer. About halfway at this point in the episode, Sabine continues to duel with Shin back in the forest, and when Sabine gets knocked to the ground, she puts her hand up like she's going to use the Force, and when nothing happens, Shin tells her that she has no power, and Sabine fires from her wrist blaster thingy and knocks Shin's saber out of her hands. Shin then throws a dusty firework on the ground as a distraction and runs off. And back at the henge, Baylan tells Ahsoka her legacy, like her master's, is one of death and destruction. Ahsoka at that point grabs the map, it burns her hand, and she tosses it aside. And on the Eye of Sion, the map stops buffering, and Morgan asks the droid, "What the hell, man?" And he tells her that the transmission of the coordinates was cut off at the source, so the calculation is incomplete. And I'm going to pause there before we get into a lot of the real action. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. The defeat of Marrok, it's giving Kenobi and Maul in Twin Suns, but unfortunately, Snoke turned to smoke. Weeks and months of Marrok theories are down the drain, and the Night Sister was this Night Sister magic, do we think? Was it just straight up dark side? What say you?
Well, I think everybody's been mishearing me. The whole time I've been saying that you guys thought I was saying Snoke is Merrick. I was saying smoke. Merrick is smoke, but no one listens. I'm like one letter off. My N's and M's get mixed up all the time. So I'm glad that I got that one right, that everybody knows that I called it. He was smoke. No.
You are very good. You are good. You are good. Yes.
You. That's my horrible impersonation. I think that as for that duel, it was totally shades of Twin Suns in Rebels, which I loved, and that's just I'm just glad that they didn't need to prolong it. I do think it's witchcraft. I think she just was controlling it the whole time, or was able to like blow smoke into the thing and fill it up, and then it was going around. So, but I like that. That it was, again, everybody's talking about Star. I just wonder the filmmakers, because they are all in on it, and they're like, oh my God, look at all these theories. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's Star Killer now. Oh, it's Ezra. Someone said that it was Kanan, that was their way to bring back Kanan. One of their theory videos was saying, like, wow, I believe it's Kanan. Or Luke. That's with two U's. Luke used from his severed hand, and it was going to be a CGI Skywalker under it. So it would have just taken away from, again, we all you get excited about big twists and stuff like that, right? But when you're in the thick of it and you're in that forest and you're just so like dialed in, that's not the time for one anyway. It was like, get rid of this guy. Let's focus on, I mean, this guy was cool. They'll sell a lot of toys. Congratulations. But now let's move on and get to these real core characters. So I always joke every time we saw speed running at the first scene of the Phantom Menace when they run down the hallway, and I remember 1999 blown away. So when she's like, get to the map, and like Ahsoka's just running like, boop, 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 and I'm like, come on, dude, the freaking Phantom Menace Speed Force run thing. But I think only Qui-Gon knew how to do it, and he zipped Obi-Wan along the way. But yeah, that forest battle, like I said, in the music was fantastic. The music with the fleet and everything too was great. But again, that forest and just setting up, it's funny. I didn't really get, like, during Obi-Wan, I totally caught vibes of the volume. Didn't really think about it in this episode, and I don't know why, because usually my brain is more looking for that. But yeah, I was just kind of caught up in it. And this is the part where like every 10 minutes it just kept getting better and better, where I was just like, dude, like what are we witnessing right here? And the whole I don't think it was low key them trolling all the fans, but like how everybody was like, she better not be able to use the Force. And then she's like, oh, you have no power. And she's like, this is still power, bitch. And then freaking fire something right in her face. And then Shin pulling a Batman. I love Batman, my favorite character ever, like in comics, so just disappearing into the smoke. So yeah, the whole thing. And I don't know if we're at the part, because we cover so much in one. We begin the Ahsoka Baylan duel, right? You talked about that.
Yes.
And one notice, Baylan does not want to light that lightsaber. That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's why, like you say, Rocha, like villain, like he does not want to have bloodshed. He's literally using the witch to get over there for some other probably valiant reason. Like he probably wants to go and fucking hop into the Order 66, take Anakin's head off, and then be done with it, right? So yeah, I was just, this is where, and you got to see the ghost in live action. And Rocha, you talked about it too. I was telling my wife, I'm like, very irresponsible of, you made a funny joke, I'll let you say the joke, but very irresponsible of Hera bringing her son onto the ghost for that dangerous mission. But I'll let Rocha take the glory for that joke. But yeah, just again, dude, Ray Stevenson, I would join whatever cause. I mean, I wouldn't kill children for it, or, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't kill children or wipe out a species or planet or anything. Like, I don't do that. But, like, if I needed to, like, push some people around and scare some people and maybe, like, Jedi, you know, choke people, I would do it for Baylan. I would do it for Baylan.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
There's my getting canceled segment of the episode.
No.
We're not there yet. John, we really are kind of narrowing down the villain pool here, getting rid of Marrok. But this duel between Baylan and Ahsoka has like so much tension in it. And I did see your tweet today, you know, talking about that, questioning the use of the word villain as a descriptor for Baylan. Tell us what you thought of these performances.
Yeah, I mean, just you know, I think we're all going to go crazy over the next 4 episodes, as well as this episode, talking about the greatness of Ray Stevenson. You know, there's such a tragedy in rediscovering his greatness, you know, and seeing what he can do. And to me, I almost tweeted, I don't know if I tweeted this out. I don't remember if I tweeted this out or not, but like I almost said, like, it shows you how many directors or producers, writers, creators didn't really make great use of Ray Stevenson in their work. I mean, you have Idris Elba and Ray Stevenson in Thor, and you give them one-dimensional characters that don't really do much, when there's so much to explore with both of them as actors in that world of Thor. And it's a real oversight. It's a real oversight. And when you see what he's doing, and by the way, he's not having like an insane amount of screen time. What he's doing with the little amount of screen time that he's getting is going farther than some Star Wars actors and characters have gotten with all the kind of screen time you could want. And so I like that he's maximizing his time and really giving you a fantastic, layered, interesting, engaging performance, and still laying the seeds of mystery with why he's doing the things that he's doing. Like when someone is that devoted to something, it makes you wonder what is making them that devoted. What could make them have no questions? Everyone else in this show, save for maybe Morgan, has questions about their role and everything. He's very clear. And that makes you think, well, what is this going on? So when he's having the back and forth with Ahsoka, I think, Kevin, you make an excellent point. He does not want to light the saber. He's trying to talk to her. Maybe he's using Force mind stuff and it'll be back and forth. He's trying to talk to her, but Ahsoka is not in the mood. And she snips that off at the bud and says, I'm not here to talk about my past. Let's get this on. Anakin never mentioned you, son. So the shade is there because she is, how can I say this? She is at a place of transition, a place of conflict, as I think is going to be exposed in the next episode in The World Between Worlds. He is not. So he is not rushing to turn on the lightsaber. He's not rushing to have this battle. And he has said, it's respect, it's experience, it's all these things that make him sad that he's going to have to kill Ahsoka. And he thinks and he knows and he feels that he's going to have to kill Ahsoka. And he does eventually kill Ahsoka, possibly in his mind. But it's a hell of a fight. And he's swinging that lightsaber like a broadsword, which I think is fantastic in the characterization and the physicality. And on the other side, really love what Ivanna Sakhno and Natasha Liu Bordizzo are doing, as I said, as two sides of the same coin, battling each other, each one frustrated by it all. I love that undercurrent of wild child with Shin Hati. That she has within her. And you can connect to that. I think of the kid in Road Warrior, right? That kind of little kid that's got to, roar all the time, but he's actually a really caring child and whatever. He's just been raised in a terrible situation. So he has this, he's adapted by acting this way. And you see with Shin Hati, there are moments where she is just staring with her eyes and there is so much going on. When Sabine has the gall to tell Ahsoka to go on after she's killed Marrok, which is a phenomenal moment, to go on and handle the space map, she's going to handle Shin Hati. The offense that goes across Ivanna Sakhno's face is so great. She's like, how dare you? I just stabbed you 2 episodes ago, and you think you can go toe-to-toe with me on my terrain? Yeah. Let's go. So there's all of that here that is pulsating through. And then when Sabine gets the best of her, using her Mandalorian Force Jedi trick, it really unsettles her. It makes her even more angry and frustrated so that she uses something like a smoke trick to get out of that situation. So that tells you that she's in a state of desperation and embarrassment of it. So there's so much here that's just so rich to explore between all of these characters in this section of the show.
To add to what you're saying real quick, before we move on, 8 minutes and 6 seconds. Do you know what that is?
Is that how long I just talked? I'm sorry.
No.
I am long-winded. I apologize.
8 minutes and 6 seconds. Laura, you got 5.
I got nothing. No, I have no idea.
That's the amount of time that Vader was in A New Hope.
Oh,
wow.
He was in it for 8 minutes and 6 seconds.
There you go.
Google it.
I should have known it.
I feel like it's that. I think I Googled it. I just hope I didn't find the wrong site. But 8 minutes and 6 seconds. And he was such a powerful, and just to speak to what you're talking about, John, about Baylan, he's barely in it. But every scene, he's so poised and so commands the scene. To bring it to a basketball, and I'm growing up in LA, like living in Orange County, but LA, like Lakers fan. And then in college and stuff, whenever we had Pat Riley in the post press conferences after a loss, or Phil Jackson at the press conference after a loss, he was so, and even Kobe, always so calm, just look, we need to hit our spots better. We needed our defense. You were just always calm and collected. And I just feel like even Baylan, just knowing right now he's got an angry ex-Jedi here wanting to tear his head off with the saber and going to do anything in her power to get to that, the staff of Ra, as people were saying, Indiana Jones, he's just so calm, and he's just going to try to explain it to her. So, and then you mentioned his poses too. I saw shout out to Alex Damon, who mentioned that is from, because I didn't really play the game. Remember, I only watched the cinemas, but that is from the Jedi Survivor game, doing this crossguard pose, crossguard stance. So that's really cool too. And if I remember the crossguard, it's when you're swinging it and it feels way more heavier or whatever. So. Again, just to add to your point, I really agree with you on that whole Baylan commands the scene, and he doesn't need to be in it a lot. I'd be curious what his total runtime is by the time we get to the end of the series. But 8 minutes, 6 seconds for Vader, and he became one of the greatest iconic villains of all time. So
Shin is very chaotic, and Baylan is very controlled, and they're a good match in that they kind of balance each other out in that, which I think makes them extra deadly as a combo. But yeah, he's very resistant to ignite his saber. And he almost looks sad when he has to ignite it, knowing that he has to duel Ahsoka. But then he brings such brute strength in that fight style. against his duel against Ahsoka, and it's just epic. It's phenomenal. Loved it.
He's not savage. It's matter of fact what he has to do. And he doesn't kill her in some bloodthirsty way. He essentially just sends her off the cliff, you know, and it's almost respectful and noble in a weird way, if you can even call it that. So, yeah. Should we take a break, Laura, before we get into the next section here, or is there more to add to the second section?
No, let's take a break.
Okay, we'll be right back with more of our review right after this. All right, let's keep it going, Laura Kelly.
All right, let's finish up our final act of episode 4. Shin returns to the henge alone, and Ahsoka assumes that Sabine is dead. And using some kind of dark side feels, Ahsoka throws Shin against a wall very hard. This pisses Baylan off. Baylan ends up backing Ahsoka up to the edge of a cliff, and that is when Sabine gets to the henge. Ahsoka tells Sabine to destroy the map. Sabine threatens to do it unless Baylan backs away from Ahsoka, and Baylan turns back to Ahsoka. Right before he pushes her off, we have a quick cut to Ahsoka's face, and her face, she looks like exasperated and defeated. And it's just a quick moment, but I'm so glad that they left this quick shot in there. So Baylan takes a swing, he knocks Ahsoka off of the cliff, and we see her fall backwards. Baylan then turns to Sabine. Baylan tells Sabine that she should have destroyed the map, and he knows that she feels that Ezra is the only family she has left. Baylan knows what's holding her back, and then we get the reveal that Sabine's family died on Mandalore because Ahsoka didn't trust her. We don't know yet exactly what that means, but this is a big question that just got answered for me in the series. So then Baylan tells them that they have something in common. He wants to serve a greater good, and she wants to save her friend. He tells her to come with him, and she'll be safe. Baylan holds out his hand for her to give him the map, and Sabine, after hesitating a bit, does hand over the little space map ball thing. From behind, Shin force chokes Sabine, but Baylan tells Shin to stop. He tells her that he gave Sabine his word, and unlike Ahsoka, he will keep his. The map finishes buffering on Morgan's ship, and she sends a shuttle for Baylan. Baylan destroys the map ball with his saber so that no one can follow them, and Sabine, in cuffs, follows Shin and Baylan as they make their way to Morgan's ship. Now, this is when Hera and company arrive. They obstruct the Eye of Sion's path, but Morgan orders her crew to ignore them, and the hyperdrive begins to engage. I think in this process, 2 or 3 maybe X-Wings are destroyed as the Eye of Sion jumps to hyperspace. The Ghost gets knocked around a little bit, but otherwise it's fine. And as the ship settles, Jason turns to Hera and tells her that he has a bad feeling. We have a quick shot of Huyang trying to call Ahsoka and Sabine on the comm. And we could have ended this episode with that scene on Cetos, but no. We cut to Ahsoka, who wakes up in a sparkle pool in the world between worlds. Ahsoka hears Anakin, who says that he didn't expect to see her so soon. She turns around, and there he is, rocking his Revenge of the Sith hair and costume, de-aged to hell and back, Anakin Skywalker himself. As we cut to black, the Vader theme plays. John, there are huge moments here. Baylan seems to maybe be attempting to recruit Sabine, possibly, and Sabine handed over the map. She just handed over. What was going through your mind when you watched all of this?
Yeah, I wanted to be mad at Sabine, but I really couldn't. And I think that's, again, a testament to Natasha Liu Bordizzo. This was a great acting episode for her, and she is showing you the emotions that are going through her as she's negotiating the situation and deciding to give Baylan the map. And certainly Baylan, who channels the Force in that moment to talk about Ezra and dial into Sabine's past, he knows what buttons to push to get her. And maybe he did the same thing with Shin Hati to win Shin Hati over to be his apprentice. I don't know. Again, questions, mysteries abound. But him being able to access those things are real interesting and use them effectively. Of course, he's using a little bit of the Force, so it's a little slight Jedi mind trick, like a little bit, but it's playing on her and by playing the empathy card, he wins her over, and she eventually hands it over because you know what? Her love for Ezra is so powerful. the need for closure with what happened to Ezra, the need to bring him back. It is so powerful. And him saying your entire family is wiped out, essentially saying that Ezra is the last family you have left, and talking about the purge of Mandalore, like essentially referencing the purge of Mandalore and what that all means, and connecting up to, season 3 of The Mandalorian with Bo-Katan and all of that. So certainly that's going to pay dividends down the road. So that all gets laid out here for us to kind of understand why Sabine would do the things that she does. Remember, this is still a young person, at times temperamental person, aggressive person, walks her own path, makes her own decisions. And in that moment, her love for Ezra didn't allow her to kill or destroy the map. So you can understand that. So I like that we have that with them. And then, of course, Morgan Elsbeth could give two F's about whoever's in the way when she gets the coordinates and she hyperspace jumps and essentially almost kills Hera and everybody else, aside from those 2 X-Wing fighters that go down. So we see that she is someone who is supremely driven to get to Thrawn no matter what it costs. But Sabine is still a good person because she starts to move forward as soon as she sees Hera, because she wants to stop this all from happening. I did not like, I got a bad feeling about this. I just did not like it. It was the wrong time for it. I just did not like it. I know that it's a Star Wars reference. I think it should have come before she went into hyperspace. Like as soon as they got the notice that there was a powerful thing, both her and Carson, Hera and Carson were like, there's a powerful source here happening. Oh my God, what is this? I've never seen anything like this before. Then Jason can say, I have a bad feeling about this. And then bang, the hyperspace happens. I think that would have fit a little bit better. But some people are saying that that's him tuning into the Force as the son of Kanan Jarrus and maybe sensing something evil is coming. I don't know.
I think that's a valid criticism, to be honest. I had kind of thought that, like, I thought it felt a little bit weird, a little bit misplaced. I think it could have been in a different part of the episode, and it would have maybe felt a little bit more right. I almost had kind of wished that he would have said the thing that Ezra used to sometimes say when he would feel the dark side, which is, I feel cold. To have echoed that moment, I think would have worked a little bit better than like bringing in this, I've got a bad feel, like constant in Star Wars. I get it. I know why they brought it in, but I completely agree with that criticism. I think that's valid.
That's a good fix too, Laura. I like that.
See, I liked it. Okay. Now, I don't think it was like it reminded me of Leia saying Luke at the end of Empire when he's feeling Luke.
Oh,
he's feeling Ahsoka. He's feeling a fellow Jedi right now in trouble. He's not. You have it earlier. I get it. He has a bad feeling. We'd all have a bad feeling, but that's not what the point of that line was. That point was because I think he's going to lead. I think once Ahsoka gets out of the World Between Worlds, she's probably going to be in the same location. And I think it's through Jason's going to be able to find where Ahsoka is. And that is that bond between this kid who is tuned to the Force and a fellow Jedi. I think he's feeling that Ahsoka's in trouble right now. And that's why he has a bad feeling that this path now we're going down is going to all take a left turn on shit boulevard. So I think I agree. Like, I get it. I totally think it's a fair criticism. And if it was earlier, it would be more about him sensing like, oh, the shit's about to go down. Oh, the hyperspace thing. Or that seems like, I feel like we would all be like, this is kind of scary. We're right in the path of this oncoming train, right? Just because it's stopped now. It's the only this train could just go 0 to that so quickly. So I think that was Jason feeling Ahsoka. And to me, that was less about, I have a bad feeling about this, and more felt like Leia sensing Luke in trouble at the end of Empire.
Maybe.
That's just my opinion. But yeah, that hyperspace thing, man. One of those X-Wing pilots is the guy that's the body double for Din Djarin, right?
Brendan Wayne.
Brendan Wayne.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So I don't think he lives. I think he's donezo. But I think Carson's alive. So we still got him.
Most of the time,
that was a cool angle, seeing it go right through you. It's a different angle, new angle POV of Star Wars. That was sick. That was awesome.
They've spared no expense in the special effects in this show, and I think I'm sure you're going to speak on it, Laura, a little bit more. Some of the volume stuff stood out for you. For me, those like when that Eye of Sion comes through the clouds, that was awesome.
Yeah,
and then when the hyperspace jump happened, I'm like, this is incredible, and so there have been some moments in Star Wars, like the Holdo maneuver is still one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed on the screen in Star Wars. And I thought this hyperspace was up there in that category. And just to finish my points at the end here, this moment is so interesting. How did she get into the World Between Worlds? It doesn't feel like Anakin yanked her in because he says, I didn't expect to see you so soon. He calls her Snips. So is this the Anakin who has not experienced what happened with him and her? Where is this Anakin in terms of the age? You mentioned the Revenge of the Sith clothes that he's wearing. So is that a connection to that? And the other element is this, and someone mentioned this in one of the Twitter posts or something, that when Ahsoka touched the witchcraft of that Star Wars Tesseract or whatever it is, that is what gave her access to the world between worlds. That's what made her kind of, and I hadn't even considered that. And I was like, oh, that could be possible. So either way, the live action version of this was incredible. And I wish I'd had a camera on myself watching that, because I lost my shits. And I don't usually lose my shit too much in Star Wars. I lost my shit because it was so well done. And I was just happy to see Anakin. And I know I haven't always been the best complimenter of Hayden Christensen, but that moment was worth it, man. I almost teared up. It was so great. So anyway, that's what my thoughts.
Yeah. Kevin, have we lost some or all of the casual fans at this point, bringing the world between worlds into this? Is like trippy Star Wars where they're all going to bow out? What do you think?
I'm out. That's it. I'm out. Like Kramer on the out on the contest, and those fans don't know what I'm talking about. No, I think it's a fascinating new thing. I mean, it is a lot to wrap your head around. I mean, they're already asking a lot of some of these fans that aren't going to like the witchcraft and like the Lord of the. I saw someone like tweet like, "Those two Lord of the Rings for me" and stuff like that, and that's fine. I mean, this is definitely a show that is rewarding fans of the animated series, because again, I think they're releasing a Master and Apprentice special on Friday on Disney Plus to further explore about what the Anakin and Ahsoka mean for each other. Because if you think about it, if you only watch the live action and the shows, like, you now know that, like, she was Anakin's apprentice, but you have nothing of that like bond that they had, right, of several 7 seasons worth. So them doing this special, I think, is really exciting, because hopefully that'll kind of get people up to speed. But yeah, the world between worlds is something that I love. We actually have it in our KOTOR Convergence movie, the multi thing. We're using that to explain multiverse, and so it's fun building it in a different kind of avenue, like in a more video game feel. But like the way they have like the ground like kind of bluish, like, was really cool. I mean, there are some bananas. Well, real quick, before I get to the world between worlds, with Rocha talking about the special effects, they spared no expense. And it's like, you just wish, like, you'd think that you're finally having this long-awaited rematch between Obi-Wan and Vader. You wish that they put this kind of, like, it just felt like they weren't, they didn't put as much money into the Obi-Wan show. And you'd think, like, that's crazy. Like, people have been waiting, all their lives to see that rematch. But and this coming from someone that still, it's his favorite live action. Still, even right now, it's neck and neck with Ahsoka, but Kenobi still takes it. But
it's different creators, isn't it? Like, it's Deborah Chow who does that Book of Boba Fett. Am I correct on that? So versus Filoni.
No, that was she did Obi-Wan. Book of Boba Fett was that one. I don't know, different.
Robert Rodriguez, right?
That's it. Yeah.
So it's 2 different creators, and no offense to Robert, but Filoni's been in it for decades, so he knows the right way to bring that about.
Trained right on. He's the Anakin to Kenobi's, George Lucas. Like,
exactly,
hand in hand. So that's how he knows that vibe. And a lot of people saying this felt the most George Lucas of any live action since the Disney purchase. But a couple crazy things. Okay.
Oh boy.
Some people are saying that. Okay, here we go. You ready? You ready for this?
Y'all strapped
in. It's not happening. But how would the internet lose its collective mind if they were like, you know what, let's reboot Star Wars.
Oh my God.
Ahsoka stops Anakin from doing Order 66, which means the prequels, Order 66 doesn't happen, and now you have a new branch off. You wouldn't have the original trilogy. They'll do renewed Star Wars with the real CGI original trilogy characters, all with brand new adventures, and there was Anakin still light side. I'm kidding, it's not that for sure. But
I was going to say, I can't imagine Kathleen Kennedy not having night sweats for about months if that's the decision they made.
The internet would literally shut down. Worse than Y2K. But here's the thing that never happened either. But some people are like, is this the son that's messing with the brother, with the Mortis stuff? Could it be that? Is it a Force Ghost? Or is it live action Anakin that got pulled in himself at some point during the Clone Wars and then was told or sensed that I need to help Ahsoka at this moment, saves Ahsoka. And here's, I know it's a stretch, but here's the heartbreaking moment. Imagine Ahsoka in Rebels made it clear to Ezra, like, even though we can affect time and space and how you pulled me out and you saved my ass with Vader, thank you very much. She was saying that some things can't be undone, right? Like, Ezra, you can't save Kanan. We can't go back and save Kanan. Like, that needs to happen. And it's kind of like in the Spider-Verse. There's these certain things that need to happen. Uncle Ben has to always die, right? He has to always get bit by the spider. Certain things, Gwen Stacy has to die. Spoiler alert if you don't know anything about Spider-Man. But yeah, what I'm saying is, what if Ahsoka has to follow her own advice that she gave to Ezra, and whatever Anakin's there for right now, and he saves her, but she can't bring herself to tell him what his fate is. And then once they're done with whatever they do in episode 5, she sends him on his way. And he had knowing that, like, he still doesn't know his fate, like how heartbreaking that'll be. If, like, because that would be practicing what she preaches. I don't think if it's live action, if it's real live Anakin that somehow is on an adventure now right before episode 3, I don't think Ahsoka would be like, hey, be careful, like Palpatine telling him all the thing. I think Ahsoka would be like, or maybe that's when Ahsoka is going to get a vision where she sees that no matter what happens, that is an Uncle Ben dying thing. Anakin will always turn bad, so she can't mess with it. I would probably think it's either a Force vision or a ghost fucking with her right now. That's my initial thought right now. But if it is the actual live Anakin and he's somehow there on a little mini adventure with Ahsoka in episode 5, it'll blow my mind. I mean, they're renting out theaters for this episode next week. So this is not just going to be a couple scenes. Like, I think that they're going to full on, like, we're going to explore some shit. But more or less, it's either a Force ghost to me, or it's going to be, the ghosts of Mortis really messing with her. Because doesn't she have the woman in her? I don't know the exact details of that.
Yeah.
The sister,
daughter,
right?
yeah.
The daughter,
The daughter.
So, but that's my theory. But yeah, that was when I heard about that. I never even thought about it that could actually be Anakin. But I think that they might be pulling. I mean, everybody was giving the Flash a lot of shit, but like how they de-aged him, but he's still kind of like, I think Molly Damon said it, or under your tweet or whatever, where you said the spoilers without context, and it was Yoda all like with a tick, and someone had wrote like, I saw a TikTok filter that was better or something. It was really funny. But maybe he looks like that because he's ethereal and it is a Force ghost, and maybe Force ghosts can manifest themselves more as a physical being in the world between worlds, right? So we don't know. Yeah. What are your guys' opinions? Do you think that Anakin there's either a ghost or a vision that's fucking with her? Do you think that that's Anakin and he's smiling right there, but then they cut to the Darth Vader theme because 2 seconds later he's going to be like, come with me and we can make things the way we want them to be, and he's evil at episode 3 Anakin? Like, what do you guys think? I cannot wait to hear about it. I've been dying. I wanted to ask you on text, but I'd rather hear it from you here.
Well, I think that the way he looks at her, it's almost like he's like trying to play innocent. Like, we know there's something ominous going because we get that Vader theme at the end. Yeah. But the way he almost is like batting his eyelashes like innocently, and it's like over the top. Whether that's just what we get from a Hayden Christensen performance, I don't know, or maybe it's something. But getting into the visual effects of it all, I tweeted that cursed smooth Yoda picture last night as a joke. I actually don't think that Hayden looks that bad here. I think he actually looks like they were like maybe a little heavy-handed with that smoothing tool, but I thought for the most part he looked good. And I think we're supposed to kind of get the feeling that there is something unnatural about this. Whether that's because like this apparition of Anakin is going to turn on her or something, if it's the son of the Mortis gods, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. John, what do you think that the intentions are here with Anakin?
I don't think they do anything. I don't think Filoni does anything by mistake. So playing those last 2 chords of the theme of the Darth Vader theme, leaving you with that ominous feeling. He didn't want to leave you with this feeling of hope for next week. It's a feeling of dread of what this means, right? And I don't know if it's the brother, because then, like you said, Laura, if we've lost a lot of the casual Star Wars fans in the world, we're going to lose all of them if they're going to go the Mortis route, right? There's so much to explain there. But I agree with you. There is something off about this Anakin, and I think the line. And nobody seems to be talking about this line is, I didn't expect to see you so soon. What does that mean? And to me, I'm exploring that line for myself. Like, I didn't expect to see you so soon. So is he the dead Anakin who is now the Force Ghost from Return of the Jedi? And he is there to, you know, kind of, she's, you know, he expected her to live a very long life before he saw her again. But here she is in the flesh, just a little bit older. So is that what that reference is? Or is there something going on there in the world? Because remember, War Between Worlds messes with time, messes with space, messes with everything. And Kevin, you brought it up, like Ezra wanted to pull Kanan out of that situation, but he couldn't. So what does this all mean? It doesn't feel to me like Anakin yanked her in. If he says, I didn't expect to see you so soon, it's almost like a surprise that he came upon her. And he calls her Snips, which I think is a real reference to something as well. Obviously, it's her original nickname, but he wasn't calling her Snips in the final season that they were together. He doesn't call her Snips when they're battling in Rebels. So it's an odd thing. So Laura, you might be right that he is like, you know, spraying the honey down to trap her in something.
You imagine right after he smiles, and then his smile, and that, like, you know how everybody's talking about like the CG or whatever, but then the CG just starts to dissipate, and then suddenly it's his face, and it's the burnt face. So, you know, like you've seen pictures behind the scenes of his burnt face, and then he's just like, "Where were you? You could have been you should have been there for me." And then, like, she's getting chased by these ghosts of her haunt. She seems like she's haunted by the past, right? And so this could just be a manifestation of it, and might not even be the father or any of the crazy thing. It just might be World Between Worlds really messing with her, and it's her guilt that's like come to life right now. And then she starts running from this Anakin that's just like, "This is your fault." And then that's when we start dealing with, because I feel like there's a reason Filoni's episode, this is Filoni's episode. I think by the end of this episode, Ahsoka's going to come to terms and grips with what her great guilt is. And a lot of people have said that maybe that scene that didn't match with Rebels, where she's like Gandalf the White with like the staff and stuff, that might be something that we see later in the season now, as like, this is how she comes back, is like a lot more like she overcomes that guilt, and then it's going to come back like super Filoni flex powerful, like, "I'm Ahsoka Tano now. And I come to you at the turn of the tide." No, I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Yeah, Laura, what do you think, Laura? I mean, like, is this a closure episode for her? Because we've seen her in the first 4 episodes say things like, you know, the guilt that she feels when Hera brings up Anakin or her master in the first episode, the flash of anger that comes across her face that unsettles Hera. The line she has earlier in this episode where she says, you know, sometimes you have to do the wrong thing for the right reason. She says a version of that, or in the second episode when she's training Sabine. So there's clearly unsettled guilt that she has over what happened with Anakin. Even though I don't think she should feel any guilt that she left, because stuff was kind of going on and she did what was best for her. But this may be her journey. What do you think about that? Do you think that'll be tackled next week?
I think that this is explaining to us a little bit why Ahsoka is so closed off and so like closed in on herself. And so like, it's not the like this bubbly character that we knew in animated form, or even the sort of like optimistic. She wasn't like bubbly, but she was still an optimistic person when we catch up with her in Rebels. And we just have such a different Ahsoka. And I understand she's been through a lot in these years, going just the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War alone. That's a lot to live through, for sure. She was a child soldier. She's been through some shit. But this is just, it feels like such a departure from what we know of this character. And there even was like a scene at the very beginning. It's that conversation she's having with Huyang and with Sabine, where he's like, "Go together." And Sabine's like, "We'll go together." And Ahsoka smiles. She's got this like big smile on her face. And we're just not seeing a ton of that in this iteration of this character. So it was like those little bright moments I'm really appreciating. But I think that all of it is just catching up with her. All of the stuff that she's been through, that she's just this kind of closed off version of herself. She doesn't want to like get too close to anybody. She's not like this perky, bubbly version that we used to know. It's just kind of the whole thing is just kind of backed off in the performance. And I think it's very purposeful, because I think that, you know, if they wanted to have a more bubbly version of Ahsoka, like Rosario Dawson could do that. That's completely plausible, I think. So this is being done very purposefully, I think, and how she's being directed. And I'm kind of hoping that once we maybe get back out of the World Between Worlds, because we know she will. And I think the Ahsoka the White thing is I think that's a very likely thing to happen once she comes out, is that we actually are going to see that costume change. There's a reason they wouldn't show something like that in the trailer, so that they can save something like that for us in episode 5, hopefully. But I wonder if maybe we'll get a little bit of shift in the characterization of Ahsoka at that point, once she kind of gets through whatever she needs to go through with Anakin in this next episode.
Yeah, for the love of God, anyone who is watching the show and sees the shift in the character, please do not go, see, I told you this is a better Ahsoka. No, that's what she evolved to, and that we had to go through the journey to get to that moment, and she's earned that from her performance for sure. But Laura, look, you're the Rebels expert on this panel, much more than me and Kevin. What was your reaction to all of this when it happened, and what were all of your 5 million thoughts that came through your head when Anakin showed up in the World Between Worlds and Ahsoka was there?
I can't believe that my neighbors didn't call the police, because there was a lot of gasping and screaming and excitement happening in my living room when I was watching this episode. Like, I mean, when the ghost like gets kind of jostled around in the hyperspace, I saw the hyperspace jump coming, and the gasp I let out, because I thought that I was like, oh no, I just finally kind of got it to be okay with this characterization of Hera, and like now I'm about to lose her. But no, I knew that wasn't, but it was still like jarring. The World Between Worlds, I can't put into words how excited my Rebels loving heart was to see this come into play. I'm sure, it's always a little bit later that I get to thinking, I'm like, I really hope that they don't start abusing their power with the World Between Worlds and using it too much, or using it in ways it's not meant to be used. But I was still very excited to see it, just because paying homage to Rebels in that way, and it looks so good. Yeah. It looks so good. I know I mentioned the volume at the very beginning of this episode, just because I noticed it at the beginning in those scenes when everything's like very still in the forest. It's like too still. Like they're standing on a backdrop. There's no leaves falling. There's no wind blowing, and it's too still. And I felt like I could feel the volume in some of those opening scenes. Once we get to like the duel and we're actually in the forest, dueling in like the forest with Marrok, you can, every once in a while, you can kind of see a leaf fall. Like it just feels a lot more real, and it worked a lot better in those situations. It was just the beginning. You mentioned that the visual effects in this episode are great, and I 100% agree. It was just that one scene at the beginning that I didn't care for. But I think that the stuff that I really connected with in this episode was Sabine. Like, so much of many questions were answered for me. I have been questioning, like, why are we going to repeat this entire training sequence, this whole saga with Sabine and saber training? We did this in Rebels in season 3 because Sabine was estranged from her family. She gets through that. She resolves all this tension and these issues with her family, and she's able to master the Darksaber. So I was asking, all of these years later, why are we again seeing Sabine struggling with saber training? Why is she so blocked again? Why can't she discipline her mind? Why did she and Ahsoka have this falling out? And everything makes sense now. We wondered if House Wren survived the purge of Mandalore, and we know now that it sounds like they did not. I suspected they did not, but getting that confirmation was still devastating. We didn't even spend that much time with House Wren in Rebels, but we spent enough that is absolutely devastating news to get confirmation of, I think, as a Rebels fan. I don't know. What did that moment like stand out for you guys at all? Or were you kind of just like, yeah, no, that checks out, that Sabine would suck with lightsaber training?
No, that hit me because I mean, I was familiar with Rebels and seen the show twice all the way through. So, you meet people just even for a short time, and then and it's always more powerful sometimes when you hear that someone dies off screen, because that's how it is in real life. You know, we're not privy to a lot of people final moments, thankfully. So I thought that was a very real moment of Star Wars for sure.
Yeah, and having it be Baylan who delivers the news, I think that was an interesting choice as well.
It was.
And reference Ahsoka, so kind of hint at this is where the real core of the division between them is. It isn't because one was headstrong and the other was headstrong and they just couldn't make it work. There's something much more deeper here, and there's maybe a kind of residue of anger that Sabine has at Ahsoka for what happened, and he references it twice. When he stops Shin force choking her, He says, I'm not going to lie to her like her master did. So there is something that happened here that we are going to be privy to. And I hope they do this correctly, because what we've seen recently with Star Wars is a tendency to undercut the heroism of your characters in order to give them more dimension. And I don't think that's necessary for every character. I think with Ahsoka, we're very clear on the multiple dimensions within Ahsoka as a character. So I hope this isn't another thing where they put another mistake on a heroic character. I hope it's much more nuanced than that. And so and I trust that it will be, because Filoni, I think, has done a great job throughout this season. So I hope when we get to that there's much more going on than we think from what Baylan said, and that Baylan was just using this to manipulate her to give the map to him. So we'll see that.
Am I incorrect or correct that we have not seen any more footage from trailers? Like, we are caught up now, and so like we are now clean.
There's very few. I saw a couple of people post some like images today where they're like, here's a couple of these things that we haven't seen yet. One of them is a wide shot of the T6 flying next to the Ghost in like a bright, cloudy, looks like it might be flying away from Cetos, because it's those bright white clouds that they're flying above in that scene. So there's a couple little things, but vast majority we've seen.
Cool. Okay. All right. Is there anything more to say, Laura? Anything we didn't get that you wanted to talk about?
I think we covered everything I got. Anybody have any final thoughts they want to share before we wrap up?
It's just so fun talking Star Wars with you guys. About halfway through this episode, I was like, this is good. I enjoy my time with you guys. So I'm not trying to get all sappy or anything like that, but I mean, last night, like, that's like, I think everybody, it was like a religious experience for a lot of people. Like, Twitter was blowing up at the same time. We were on text. Like, it was like a where were you moment, And I'm just so happy for Hayden, and I know that he had his detractors. I don't think that Leonardo DiCaprio could have said some of those lines in Attack of the Clones, to be honest. So, with much success.
I think you're right. Honestly, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
That's
but yeah, it was such a great episode. I like that we really have no idea where we're headed. Whether, we don't know what happens 2 seconds after it cuts to black. So whether, that's going to be the fun one, is like for a week, getting to talk to Star Wars fans. And so far, I mean, I avoid other shows for the most part, because I don't want them to taint my opinion of it. Right. But I had to hear the Alex Damon episode breakdown of it. But it just seems like it's going to be fun now that we've done our show, that I can listen and hear everybody on the discourse of what they think is going to happen, and who's going to be who, and what's Anakin's fate. Like that's just fun. It's just kind of like Rocha, after a good wrestling pay-per-view, you get watching the cast, watching Strong Style. There's a there you go. Thing for you. But just like the discourse, I'm excited for a week of discourse. Hopefully most of it's been positive, and there's not going to be a lot of negativity out there, and it's just fun to be a Star Wars fan right now, I gotta say.
Yeah, you take away the Marrok speculation and you replace it with World Between Worlds speculation. So we do need to have that to carry us from one thing to the next. Yeah, my only final words are this: keep doing the things that you're doing. I'm enjoying this series, and I think this episode validated a lot of us who've been enjoying the series versus some people who've been criticizing it, that we led naturally and organically to this episode, and it all worked because of the groundwork they had laid in the first 3 episodes. The payoffs were all over this 4th episode. So that's what I was saying. So bring on episode 5. And I agree with you guys. The fact that they're screening it in theaters means this is going to be an epic episode for sure. Yeah.
This is the episode that Filoni probably got the full length from. They probably saw this episode and was like, because I don't know the order of green lights and stuff, how long this has been in the can, but this feels like this was like Filoni's like thesis. And now, he's graduating, and now he gets his first job out of the gate. It's going to be Heir to the Empire.
Yeah. Next week will be 50 minutes long. This was a 40-minute long episode, so we'll get a little bit extra runtime out of the Dave Filoni episode 5.
That'll be fun to see for sure. All right, well, there you go. That's our spoiler review for episode 4, Fallen Jedi here of Ahsoka. Thank you to the great Laura Kelly for shepherding us through all the stuff that happened in this episode. You've been so great. You're getting all the love on social media and on the comment section. So, keep doing the things you're doing, Laura. We appreciate it madly. And it takes a little bit of load off my shoulders as well. So it's great to just sit in the back and let Captain Laura Syndulla drive for a while.
Dude. I'm just chilling back here.
Exactly.
Dude.
Exactly. I'm just chilling. I'm like Zeb in a bag here, just hanging out with you guys. So,
are we gonna see Zeb? By the way, is he?
Yeah. Where's Zeb? Where is Zeb in this show? He's our last
where's Zeb?
crew.
I think we're getting Zeb. Absolutely. I wouldn't even rule out Din Djarin and Bo-Katan at some point. Now that we brought up the Purge of Mandalore, at some point we're gonna have to see that, I imagine, as well. All right, and Laura, thanks again. Please let people know where they can find you.
Sure, come find me on Twitter at @shutup_Laura. You can also find me at Forced Toast Pod. That's the podcast I host with my friend Alice, where we drink wine and talk about Star Wars. Both handles are the same on Instagram, so it's at @shutup_Laura and at Forced Toast Pod. And
are you guests on any shows that have happened recently or upcoming, anything, or are you good for right now?
Nothing too recently. I was on a fun new show called What Star Wars Means to You. Just like an interview show that asks that exact question, and we talk about it for 20 to 60 minutes or something, and it's a grand old time. So I'll, there's a link to that somewhere in my Twitter feed, but I'll make sure I retweet that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Kevin Smets, another fun time with your brother, man. Thanks for talking Star Wars with me and Laura. Please let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can see the Twitter below. I'm actually going to do your boys show, Settle the Score. I'm going to get my ass kicked by Dan Murrell next week, so that's going to be fun. Why are you sicking me, Dan Murrell, dude? What?
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but that'll be fun. And then the KOTOR channel, I think I'm gonna do it. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I'm gonna merge all the KOTOR movies that I did that tell the story of Revan into one super giant movie. Just for the fans on Friday. I'll be working, but when you do premiere mode, the chat's live, and we've been talking about it, and so everybody's gonna get to be in there and celebrate KOTOR. So if you check RevanTrilogy.com, you'll get to see this Friday. We'll probably have an all day. You just pop in throughout the day and you can see the many aspects or the many parts of my movie trilogy. So that's going to be fun. And then, I'm not on Scoundrels Inc. this week. I'm sure they're going to be talking about the show too. So once you get your fill of the Jedi Way, you can hear them. And other than that, dude, another great time. I hope the fans are having fun. And again, thanks for all the love. With my recovery and everything like that, I just want to make sure I give props to that whenever I can, because it means the world to me. So love you guys too, and thanks so much. And socials and projects, of course. Sorry, that watched last week and you understand. That's my kitster.
And it means so much to us that you continue to hang out with us, Kevin, and do the show. We appreciate it madly as well.
Yeah, of course.
Please, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. We crossed 30,000 subscribers the other day. It may seem like chump change to other channels, but for me, it's a very big deal. And these two are a big part of why we crossed 30,000. And all of you who have subscribed, thank you so much. Now let's march to 50,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell button as well so you can be notified when we're dropping all the episodes of the Jedi Way and all the other content we do on the Outlaw Nation channel. Thank you so much. Thank you to these two for sure. And you guys are awesome. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Strap in. Next week's going to be a banger. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review episode of the Jedi Way. Laura, what do we have to tell them?
We tell them, remember, your Marrok theory sucks and your focus determines your reality.
Even though I can't...